Word. First of all, I
Word.
want to get out of the way. What I haven't done correctly in the last few ones is welcome and thank our audience for watching. So,
our growing audience,
as we are a burgeoning show, we're growing, budding, and we want to thank all of our viewers that watch.
What about our sponsors, Ash? Should we thank our sponsors also?
Well, I'd like to thank our sponsors also, but first of all, for everybody in the home building, the retail lumber industry, the industrial lumber industry, the off-site construction industry, hedge funds, anybody that watches us, it's amazing. I know Gregg, myself, get all kinds of questions every week from people, and I'm like, that person was watching our show. I'm kind of feel pretty good about that. And Matt, you and I have talked about it. So first of all, welcome.
People ask me, they go, "Oh, you really? You do that?" Like, how many people watch it? I go, we're not challenging Joe Rogan yet.
Tens of hundreds of people.
Yeah. The tens of there you go. But
more than a handful.
Yeah, but
not challenging Joe Rogan yet.
I wanted to get that out of the way and just thank everybody on that. And if you want Gregg, Matt, and I to do a live podcast at one of your industry events, which we have been starting to get requests potentially to do, we can do that. Think about that. Imagine this in your head: the three guys from the Lumber Channel getting together and sitting up and talking about lumber economics on a stage. Wouldn't that be more fun than listening to an economist talk about something with charts and pie graphs?
And you know why? It's because we adhere to the principle: if we can't dazzle you with our brilliance, we baffle you with our bullshit.
So let's get it. So with that, I'll segue Gregg into the disclaimer. We are three lumber dudes that at the end of the day can be wrong many times. So don't take any advice from us. Anything that we talk about are things that we do on our own.
These are our own opinions.
These are our own opinions, and we'll tell you if we're talking about something, if we own it or don't own it. So we're not trying to create any opaque or darkness here. We're here simply to be a little bit stylish.
I mean, part of the whole idea that we had was we'd start talking, when you talk about the things that are affecting the market and you have differing opinions, then it helps you become a better trader, have a better understanding of the industry. I just I hope that we don't become an echo chamber, the three of us. We need to.
I think that's impossible.
We need to guard against that.
We operate in different markets and we trade different regions and different species. I mean, my whole life, I've been a Western trader. I'm like one of the last guys in North America that trades ponderosa pine dimension. That's a dinosaur, right? And
it's a whitewood, right? It's whitewood.
Yeah, it's just something that it's a niche. It used to be something that was produced and was reported on Random Lengths print when I was a rookie. There was a ponderosa pine column. That's long gone. So, my experience and my regional experience is totally different than yours, right? And I work for a Western sawmill. We produce a lot of green Doug fir and hem fir. I mean, these are things that have nothing to do with spruce per se. On the other hand, Gregg, you represent an Eastern spruce sawmill, and you're a Euro importer, mostly on the East Coast. So there's no way we're going to have tunnel vision with each other just based on that alone. Now, Ashley, that's another story. We'll get to that later.
Well, I've co-opted.
He's the FNG as far as I'm concerned.
At this point.
He's been around for 30 years, but he's still the FNG. And if you don't know what FNG is, just look it up on YouTube or Google.
I don't even know what FNG is, so I'm going to have to look it up.
Okay.
Something
new guy.
Let's go into a little bit real quick. And Matt sent me an email over before and it made sense. So we want to keep this fresh and new. So if there's something that people want us to talk about, send us a note and we'll talk about it. But again, thanks for everything. So a little summary from last week. It's crazy. It's already Wednesday. All right. So last week, Matt, Gregg, and I got together. I wasn't expecting a lot in the market last week. And, we talked back and forth, but I'll be darned if we didn't have a great week of shipping out of our particular reloads. And in the Southeast, in the Northeast, our mill direct stuff, we were shipping a bunch of stuff. And I questioned whether it would follow through to this week. Yesterday had a good day of shipping and selling again. So I know in our little markets that we work in, Matt, were pretty good weeks. How about yourself?
I had a good week. It's steady. I wouldn't say it's great or spectacular, but again, that's because of me not having some of the stuff that people want to buy. But I ended up having I sold a bunch of lumber last week and even through Friday, which kind of surprised me. I figured Friday would just be a dud as everybody goes off to the lake cabin or go to the beach or mountains or whatever they're planning on doing for Labor Day weekend. But I sold a bunch of lumber on Friday, so that caught me by surprise a little bit. And then yesterday was just everybody's come back in the office, but today I'm back to being like on a normal amount of inquiries and normal amount of business so far. So, to me, it feels like the lumber market, the word that we use to describe today would be like sneaky. And I think I used some similar term last week that maybe it's not as bad as people want it to be. You kind of see it reflected in the board too, because we're pounding that $500 market and everybody expect to go down and retouch that 480 level that it did last time, the previous low, and it just won't break through 500. Tells me something.
Yeah.
Good.
I mean, Matt, I am of the, and I've increasingly over the last while been of the opinion that the market is at relative equilibrium, and supply and demand are pretty well balanced right here. They don't appear to be any excesses anywhere in the pipeline, and perhaps there's some shortages some places that pop up, but with that as the backdrop, it's going to allow for like steady business until something changes. And the question is there all of a sudden going to be more production, or is demand going to fall off? Is this a good way to segue, Ash, into?
Yeah, let's. So there's a famous Don Rumsfeld, and no matter what you think about him, the actual quote is pretty good. Greg, I can read you the quote if you want me to, or
just
if you got it.
For some of our younger viewers who may not know who Don Rumsfeld is. So he was both the youngest Secretary of Defense when he was Gerald Ford's Secretary of Defense, and the oldest Secretary of Defense when he was George Bush's Secretary of Defense. But during the Gulf War, he had this quote. Ashley, go ahead.
And I believe Greg, he's also from Winnetka, Illinois, if I'm correct.
He is. He's a homer. Yeah, he's a homer. He grew up down the street. New Trier boy. He
said there are known knowns, and there are things we know. We also know there are known unknowns. That is to say, we know there are some things that we do not know, but there are also unknown unknowns, the ones we don't know that we don't know.
And that last one, that makes up most of my body of knowledge.
And Greg, who are the most dangerous people in the world?
Exactly. The people who think they know something
and don't know that they don't know.
And don't know that they don't know.
So I think
have you ever worked with any of those people, Ash? I don't know. Probably.
I've actually been that person sometimes. And usually
I think as you get older, you start to realize that maybe it's best not to say anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you're younger, you're like eager to be part of the crowd and I got to be relevant. I got to say something, make me sound smart.
Yeah.
Then you do that a few times and shove your foot in your mouth. Like, man, maybe I should tone it down.
I made a little list of known knowns.
Okay. Well, so my thought was we would go through and talk about the known knowns that we all have on our list, the known unknowns and the unknown unknowns. So Greg, kick it off.
So known knowns, housing starts. We've got a run rate through 7 months of 1.45 million ish, and so we can probably interpolate that we're going to end up somewhere between 1.4 million and 1.5 million housing starts, which contrasts with you know, last year 1.665, in 21 1.737. Like known knowns. I know that right now new home sales are making up 1/3 of the market versus an historical 10%, and that existing homes at 1 million units are 50% of what they were a year ago. I know those things.
So I know interest rates went from sub 3% to almost 8% in 2 years. Home builder stocks have risen and are the analysts' bright spot, and they think that it's going to be continue to be a moonshot. Although, Greg, you pointed out yesterday how the builders index was actually down a little bit off its high.
Yeah, it's down 6% from the high set a few weeks ago.
And I kind of will jump onto yours. Existing home sales and mortgage refinancing are at historical lows right now, while new home sales, or excuse me, existing home sales are very low because there's not a lot of inventory, and new home sales continue to plod along. So I know that. Matt?
I think my thought was I know that people have low inventory because I keep getting orders and inquiries from other distributors, and I'm also getting swarmed by people I don't normally get swarmed by. So, when you start to see names that from the past that you haven't heard from for 6-8 months or a year or more, looking for something that everybody else has been looking for the last 3 weeks, then
2x4 number 316s.
How about just 2 before anything 16? It doesn't really matter what the grade is.
Which, by the way, we do own some of those. So we own them in our.
This is in the disclosure. This is in the disclosure.
We own those in
Got a hunch, buy a bunch.
We own those in our family trust, or whatever that. What's that one that? What's the name always says?
Your charitable trust. Okay, Kramer.
Sorry, man.
There's my known is that people just don't have a lot of inventory laying around.
Okay, what do you know that you don't know, Matt?
Well, I know that the volume of lumber coming in from Canada is down year over year, and it's like a 10-year low. People don't realize it's been since like 2013 that the Canadians have shipped this low amount of lumber across the border year to date. And, I've got data to prove it. I'm not making this up. I've got charts and graphs and keep track of this kind of stuff.
We're never challenge you on that you would make anything up, Matt.
No, so I know that that's true, but then we also know as a group that the European lumber flow is a lot lower than it was, 6 months ago or 8 months ago. And it appears as though it's back to more of an historical number and that it'll probably stay at that level. So what is that effect going to be in the fourth quarter and first quarter of this year and next year? That's something I don't know, because I expect lower demand at the same time, right? And that's my personal opinion. But what if I'm wrong? What if demand actually goes slightly up? Right?
So you know that you don't know what demand's going to do.
I don't, and I don't think anybody does. We're going into an election year. There's all kinds of world stuff going on we have no control over, and it's when things are like this, and there's no obvious basis trades to be done in the board right now. There's no like layup deals just being presented to you on a day-to-day basis. Sometimes it's better just to go fishing, right? Like clear your mind, don't take any undue risk.
It's a good time to go fly fishing.
Kind of chill.
It's a good time of year to go fly fishing, right?
Start, get back in shape for ski season. That's coming up in 3 months. Like there's things that you can do besides grinding over lumber and trying to figure out the next angle.
It's like you can work on your fantasy football lineup for tomorrow night.
Oh, yeah, I quit doing that, man. I lost a championship game by 0.5 point one year because Tony Romo got -2 on Monday Night Football.
You got Romo'd, huh? Okay.
I lost by 0.5 point.
Everybody has a story of how they got something blew up. That's for sure.
Then he retired.
So, Ash, I know that I don't know what interest rates are going to do.
Yep.
mean, everybody tells me what they think they're going to do, but as this year's kind of proven, is there's been surprises in that. And
Well,
I
everybody
look at a
was
7.25% interest rate. What happens if that dropped down to 6.25%, and what happens if that were to shoot up to 8.25%? Right? Those are two completely different worlds.
Or if housing prices fell 20% to mitigate that mortgage rate staying at 8%, but nobody thinks that'll happen either.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the things that's always guided me over the years is there's a couple in that, what if you can figure out where everybody is in their thought process about the market? If you can get an overwhelming consensus, then then I know that I should look for something else to happen. The other thing is that when I look at the market, one of the big things that influences it is what is people's perception of what the future is going to be. What does the marketplace expect to happen, and then is there a difference between what people's expectation and what reality ended up being? I.e., to Matt's point, everybody in our industry continues to look for a slowdown because of all the things that we listed. And so we're consistently surprised when things are better than that. Right?
Aren't we feeling that way?
Is,
aren't we feeling that way now a little bit? Like I'm always surprised with how good things still feel in my world.
Yeah.
I'm talking about
people
lumber.
are still moving to Florida. People are still moving to Texas. People are moving to the South. This is a long-term pattern, right? Northerners exiting the North and moving to the South. It's been going on for 25, 30 years. But beyond that, we have our own, and this is based on years and years and years of historical data, but our own knowledge of what the seasonality of lumber is, right? So we're coming into like the lowest, the lowest pricing point of the year historically is going to be sometime in the next 4 months.
Seasonal low for spruce lumber is the third week in October.
Right, and then you have typically there's some kind of interest in that from speculators. And you'll have some rallies in the wintertime. You'll have some people that like kind of old fashioned speculators that'll load the boat when it's cold and, let the lumber sit for 3 or 4 months in the snow and freeze dry. So, that usually happens. And last year, January was a perfect example of that. We started out the first half of January kind of like flat, and then all of a sudden, boom, we're rallying into February, right? We just remember that. We had a pretty significant rally in the first quarter. So,
this
that doesn't
year,
surprise me when that
happens. $150 from January 15th to like February 15th.
Yep.
And then, and then we had another $100 rally from March 15th to April 15th. Mm-hmm.
And then another one in July, June, July.
Mm-hmm.
We're like one a quarter. Basically, that's kind of what it is. I guess it just and these rallies have been relatively like on a absolute number basis manageable compared to the last 2 years with the massive volatility that we came out of. And so you would expect, if you're just looking at this year how it's gone, you would expect more of that. So that would tell us that some point here between now and January 1st there's going to be another $100 rally, right? I mean, you would think. So, but the question, I guess, that we don't know the answer to is: are we going to go down 50 first, or are we going to go nowhere first, right? I mean, are we going to go up 100 now? I don't feel that way. Like in my heart of hearts, I'm not out there actively trying to buy a lot of lumber because I think there's a $100 rally right in front of us in September and October. But man, I've been surprised all year with the consistency of the market. So, and I'm speaking from a Western perspective, right? We're dealing with Western customers and Western markets and Western species. I don't know exactly if it holds up the same in the East, but yeah, I would say that, as a company and as an individual, we've been pleasantly surprised with 2023.
So my known unknown is the cross-border dispute between the Canada and the United States. Is that okay to say it's a cross-border dispute, or what should I actually call that?
It's only been going on for like 130 years.
Yeah. So here's
Forever.
what I know. Here's what I know. There's $8 to $10 billion. Does that sound right? Do I know it's sitting in?
Yeah.
Is it the Treasury Department waiting to be decided upon whether it stays here or not? I know that the last dispute, the Canadians got somewhere around 80% back in a negotiated settlement. I know that. What I don't know now is if they're actually in talks, and I don't know if they're going to get anything back this time. I've heard that they don't think they're going to get as much as 80% back, maybe as low as 40% back. That's just what I've heard in the industry. But I don't know.
It's a big pile of money.
It's a big pile of money.
A big pile of money.
So that's one thing that's a known unknown for me. The other one is I know that there is a shutdown cost and a cost of production at all the mills around North America, Europe, but I don't know what the shutdown cost is versus the cost of production. And I hear numbers all over the place. And I know it's different regionally, and I know there's higher cost and lower cost. So I think it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, because one thing I know is there's probably some mills running in some places right now on limited shifts that are not making money. And I think we talked about that for the last 3 or 4 months. And I guess my unknown is how long do they continue to do that for, right? And it goes back to what Gregg said at the beginning of it. I think supply and demand and what Matt said about the European stuff is probably closer. These mills have become very capable at riding the clutch when they need to and pulling off that excess amount of inventory. And I think they're doing a pretty good job doing it.
One of my questions is what impact the fires both in Eastern and in Western Canada are going to have on production going in the fourth quarter. It's a kind of a double-edged sword. Is there a whole bunch of salvage timber that becomes available that needs to get cut and it's a lower cost, or is there log supply issues as a result of that? That's kind of I guess that's an unknown for me.
I think it's known. I mean, at least partially known, because the log prices in Canada just keep going up, right? And you've got mills that historically just ran spruce. That's all they ran. Now they're running Doug fir. Some are even running cedar from time to time. One of the mills that we deal with in BC runs hem fir for the first time ever in the last year. And it's just about log availability. So like they're having to change their production based on what they can buy in their little region. Where in the past that was like 100% spruce. Now they'll be producing 3 different species just to keep the mill running. And that tells you everything you need to know about BC. I'd be kind of more curious about Alberta, because there were some pretty nasty fires in Alberta, and Alberta's been relatively immune from the pine beetle destruction. And that's why I think a lot of the BC mills started buying assets in Alberta over the last 15 years, because it had been relatively immune from the pine beetle. That's why Miller Western went to Canfor and Fraser bought Hinton and all that stuff. But that could be because the forests aren't near as plentiful you're talking about a much smaller geographical range in Alberta than BC. So
good point, Matt. Let's go to the number 3, which is going to be really fun. The unknown unknowns. Who wants to kick that one off?
No, unknowns are easy. I don't know what I don't know. I mean, I think it's a lot. But I don't know that it's a lot. It could not be as much as I thought it was.
Yeah, mine is what I put on here. I don't really know anything. But I also put
that's
on
the
here,
beginning of wisdom right there, Ashley. Accepting that you don't really know anything. That's how you start to have wisdom.
It's called killing your ego, right? I have a hard time with that, but I'm working on it. Um,
I don't have any. Go ahead, sir.
Government intervention.
Right.
And let's just put it so. I don't know if the government is going to put $4 trillion into the economy again. I didn't see that coming in 2019 or 20, right? These are all things you don't know a hand of God when there's some kind of event.
Hey, so I hear that they're trying to gin up the whole COVID thing, and again, how you feel about that? You ready to mask up again?
No, I'm not going to do it.
Not going to do it.
No.
Hell no, we won't go.
Not going to do it. Not going to fly in a plane if I have to. That's just me. I know my wife probably feels different about it, but
I mean, you're not going to be like wearing the mask in your house or in your car when you're driving by yourself.
Well,
you're not going to do that.
We're planning a trip to Europe in 2 months, so if we do that and I have to put it on, I may not have a choice. But in my mind, I won't want to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
go ahead.
Things that we have no control over. So as far as lumber prices go, I mean, we've all seen some big moves happen in our lifetime on events that we never saw coming. And that's the unknown about it. And that's one reason why it's important to keep information all the time, to be nimble, to be an intelligent trader and know when to react to something and when not to react to something, right? And so I think the unknowns are one thing, as Matt and Gregg, you put, as we get more seasoned in our trading years, we expect those things happen sometime, and we know that we can only react to them when they do happen, if that makes sense.
Yeah. My thing about the unknown is just the world economy, the Fed, what are they going to do? What about consumer sentiment? I can see with my eyes what's going on here locally. There's fewer cars on the road and there's fewer people going to vacation destinations in Oregon. This is confirmed. This is things I see. I think people are just buttoning down on what they're spending their money on because it's just the cost of living keeps going up. And the American consumer is a fickle animal. So I don't, and then what is China's economy? That has world implications that we have no control over. Are they going to come roaring back next year? Or are they going to just collapse? I mean, who knows? So then you've got an election coming up too in a year, yet a little over a year from now, and election season starting to heat all the rhetoric from that. Does the current administration want to, alter monetary policy based on an election coming up? I don't know. I mean, these are all things none of us really knows the answer to, but we're going to find out. It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. Honestly, it's kind of a fascinating time to be in the market.
I mean, the one thing you want to keep an eye on is oil pushing back up towards $90 a barrel. I mean,
I've heard it. They're expecting it to go to 107 here.
Yeah. So, I think that's the kind of thing that can be like a real whammy at this point. So you want to keep your head on that. And then, really what you want to do is keep your eye on my Cubbies. This could be really special this year.
What about the Bears? Are they going to be any good?
What's that?
Are the Bears going to be any good?
Bears are going to be 10-7 this year. Wow. Since they only won, I think, 3 games last year, it's going to be a banner year. Yeah.
That's awesome. They're going to make it the playoffs.
That having been said, I have no Bears on my fantasy teams. So, I'm not putting my money there. That's for sure.
Did you draft Ashley? I heard he's going back in. He's eligible for the actual draft still.
I'm training for it right now. Hey, Matt, the background. Could you tell us what your background is up on the screen there?
It's a harbor in Richmond, British Columbia. I took that about 10 years ago from the hotel I was staying at when I was visiting. I was visiting the Canadian office. I think I went up there for some BC wholesale function. And that's beautiful little harbor background of Vancouver, BC. It's an actual.
I'm gonna have to raise my tech savvy so that I can get like some sort of a cool background to be hip instead of just having whatever this garbage is behind me.
Well, look, everybody, we're up against a half an hour here. Again, so I thank the audience, but I also want to thank Matt from Hampton Lumber Sales. Matt comes on every week, puts in some solid information. Again, Matt and I have known each other forever, along with Gregg. And Gregg, thank you very much for also participating. We get a lot of good feedback how we're all doing a great job, and so we should all reach over our back, pat ourselves, and keep it over. What we're really trying to do is help give the industry information that has been great parts of our lives and has created the lifestyle that we can live, and we want everybody to do the same thing. So,
Amen. Hey, thanks, guys.
Awesome.
Have a good one.
Have a good one, guys.
Take care, Ash.